following program is available in high definition on Channel 700. This program is designed and produced by the community with the support of TV Cogeco.
Welcome to Oakville Matters. This is truly local television on Cogeco Channel 23 and 700 that gets you to the heart of what matters to the residents of Oakville. And today we're talking about the other levels of government that we turn to for the really big things that a town or a city can't do by itself, the province and Canada. And representing a giant chunk of Oakville and a part of Burlington and a part of Milton, respectively, we have Pam Damoff and Indira Naidoo-Harris. And Pam is the former councillor from Ward 2 in Oakville, and Indira is a famous broadcaster before she decided to get into politics. But really, you know, I'm the father of two daughters, and I have a politically active wife, and the question around our supper table has always been how to get more women into politics. And when we were chatting, it struck me that the hours you were describing, there must be a way to describe the hours that, I mean, it sounded very exciting, but it also sounded very hard. So how do you frame that to other women to encourage them to follow you into politics? Why don't we start with you? You're the one who's just confronted the federal workload.
I have, and it's definitely challenging. I mean, it's 8 a.m. till 8:30 at night when I'm in Ottawa. But having said that, I mean, there's a lot of people that get into business that work hours like that, so it's not unique.
Well, you worked longer than that when you were a councillor.
I did, and working in Oakville and Burlington is it's different, but it's just as busy when I'm in the riding as well. So it's, but it is a challenge. It's a challenge to get younger people involved and young women, especially, to take the plunge. We're looking at having more family-friendly Parliament, so that we can encourage people with young families to get involved in politics, because we do need all voices at the table. So
is that an echo of what happened in Alberta, where they talked about changing the start time?
I don't know what the final product will be. Queen's Park did it a few years as well. But there certainly needs to be something done. I'm really proud of what our government has done in terms of trying to promote gender equality, and having a gender-balanced cabinet was a huge, huge first step. We ran out of MPs, female MPs, to sit on the committees, though. So it's interesting. So I ended up being the only one available to go sit on the Public Safety Committee. I'm the only woman on that one, because we're not gender balanced when it comes to committee work.
Well, in my long distant past, I covered Parliament for CTV, and in those days there weren't a lot of women, and they generally tended to be more likely to be on a committee than in cabinet. So maybe it's not perfect yet, but I think being in cabinet's probably better than being on committee. But I don't know, maybe it's
well,
not.
I loved what I'm doing on committee, but yeah, we just need more. We need more women to get into politics and have it more balanced.
So you need to answer the question then, why would you face that workload? And I'm thinking there's some kind of rewarding feeling that comes from doing this, or why would you do it? Because you don't certainly need to do it. No,
well, there's definitely rewards. I mean, I can't begin to say how much I enjoy the work. I love it. I always have. You know, being able to help people and guide them through the government, whether it's municipal or federal, and direct them to find a solution for them. It's really, as you know, it's very rewarding to be in public service. So I think, I just don't think we do a good enough job of letting people know what's actually involved with being in politics. And I've already had 3 university students shadow me for the day, so they get a sense of what's really involved when you're on Parliament Hill. So that's something that I want to do more of, and get more young people involved in learning what's really involved.
Well, to my wife and my daughters, I think what I've heard is there's a sense of reward that's available if you really like people and you enjoy helping other people. Mm-hmm. That might be the test as to whether or not you want to do it. And Indira, how about you? How did you find the shift from broadcasting? You know, my joke about broadcasting, because I was in broadcasting, is it's a good thing it beats working for a living because it's so much fun. So how does being a representative in the legislature compare to what you were doing before?
You know, what I have to say, Rob, is that...
Which is more exciting?
Well, you know, both, really, right? Both of them are exciting, but in different ways. So I learned a lot from my years as a journalist, as I know you probably did too. I mean, one of the things that I really learned was, you know, listening to people, finding out what their issues were on the ground, finding out if there was a problem that needed to be solved, going there, sticking that mic in their face, hearing about it, and then going to people like yourself or Pam, who are politicians, and saying, hey, so now what are you doing about this, right? Did that for a number of years, you know.
And now do you like having the mic in your face?
Well, you know what? It's the first times around, it was a bit scary, right? But ultimately, in the end, I decided to make that change because I got tired of asking the questions and realized that, you know what? Maybe it's time to start thinking about how to serve people better by coming up with some of the solutions. So instead of criticizing people or finding things wrong with what they're doing, let's try to be proactive. Let's try to really go that one step further to helping people along to find the solutions they may need to their problems. Not easy, absolutely. Long hours, lots of work, you know, and there are days when, you know, you have to really dig deep down inside to find out how you're just going to get through your day, because you look at your schedule and you're just like, what? And realize at 3 o'clock in the afternoon you haven't even had breakfast or lunch, right? And that's when I usually turn to my staff, as I'm sure you do, Pam, and say, I have to eat now or else I'm going to pass out, right? But the bottom line is, you hit on it, right? It is really about the people you go and the people you meet. Some days I find, you know, I have to do this, 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 and this, and I forget about, you think about the job, but you forget when you get there, there's a whole new energy that comes to the event you're at or whatever. I mean, you and I have been to some events where you just start to meet people, you start to talk to them, and then you just get this feeling of, wow, this is fantastic.
Well, the two of you are two of the most energetic people, not women, but people that I've ever met. And so I think of you as surrogates for the Energizer Bunny. And I wonder when you recharge. So what's the biggest burning issue that you've discovered? I think my lesson as an amateur politician, I mean, I became mayor when I was 60, and I had never been in politics before. So my big takeaway is that people don't care anything about what you've done. They only want to know what you're going to do. So on behalf of those people, what you gonna do? What's the biggest thing that's in your pipeline for Oakville, or for Oakville North-Burlington?
Well, certainly the budget that was just released March 22nd, it was really rewarding to be there to hear a budget that reflected what was in our platform. And coming from municipal government, to know that the infrastructure investment is going to be made.
So the biggest thing is the infrastructure projects you're going to try and shepherd through this for us?
Exactly.
And I can't wait to find out what they'll be.
Well, do you know what? I don't think it's up to me to tell you or Oakville what it needs to be. I think we need to be working together and with the provincial government.
Oh, well, Oakville sent you a list.
I know you did. But I think it's something that we're going to work together on. It's not one level of government telling the other one what's going to happen. I'm looking forward to.
So we'll get it all.
Well, I'd love it.
That's wonderful.
Love it. I would love it if we got it all. You know, the other thing that I'm really excited about working on is on the Public Safety Committee, I really pushed for us to do a study on PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and operational stress injuries in our first responders and public safety officers. And I'm really proud of, you know, our police, ambulance, and our paramedics and firefighters here in Halton. And being able to, I mean, a lot of the programs they're doing are leading the way in that issue, and certainly the provinces as well, and I'm thrilled that I was able to push that, and that's our first study that we're doing on the Public Safety Committee. So,
what was the number one thing you heard at the door when you were campaigning for Parliament?
Probably the environment. People wanting the economy was certainly important. But I think people also really wanted to see a different kind of leadership at the federal level. And we're certainly seeing that coming through. Leadership that listened to people, that worked with other levels of government, and formed partnerships with residents, with business, with government. And I think that was probably the three top things that I heard.
Well, I can tell you that in the in the media, in the punditry area of the media, you hear things sometimes called the media party, right? Meaning the opinion of the media, and as opposed to the different political parties or the people. There's a new thing in Ontario. I call it the mayor party. All the mayors, without a word of a lie, all the mayors have gotten together, and we've achieved unanimity on what we know our municipalities need. And the other day, one of us, who used to be a member of Parliament, said to the rest of us that we've never had this kind of synchronicity between the local, the provincial, and the federal. And we've got more than 800 days now in that synchronized time together to really get something done for the people of this province. And does that make you smile in the morning when you get up? Are you guys aware of that?
Sure, absolutely. You know, I think that these are unique times, challenging times too, right?
But time limited. There's 800 days, and they run away.
But,
one leaves every day.
But my point, Rob, is this: you know, we all know that the country's facing what looks like a fragile economy and possibly a fragile future when it comes to the economy and how we're doing financially.
Hey, we had a great growth report yesterday.
Yes.
You know, on an annualized basis, it's looking like 2.4. And that may not sound like very much until you compare it to the rest of the world, and it's pretty good. So
what I was going to say is that having these three sort of levels of government lined up together, working together, mayors working with each other, mayors working with the province, mayors working with the federal government, and you know, a new federal government and our new federal partners, I think that's what I mean by it's a unique time, because we really are, I think, at the sort of lead of being able to do some exciting work in the country and in the province and in our town. And so,
in fact, I think it's really important. We can't blow this opportunity. If we don't deliver significant constructive results in these 800 days, people are never going to care about getting the three levels together again.
Absolutely, and I think you're right. You know, there's always pressure on government and politicians to get it right, but this is a great time, and I have a lot of positive feelings about where we're headed. But you didn't ask me what my, what things that I wanted to accomplish, and and I want to talk about that because.
And I would like to know.
Look, it's hard to sort of narrow it down to one thing or one or two things.
You can only do them one at a time anyway. So just pick one.
Well, one of the main things that I think, talking about the economy, we're of course talking about jobs, and our budget came out just like the federal budget came out, so jobs for today and tomorrow. That's part of what I want to do, is create a sense in Halton, which is one of the fastest growing areas in the country, build that support and that foundation there for that growth to be able to continue in a way that really makes sense, so that we're not just trying to figure out what we're going to do here and what we're going to do there, or 10,000 new homes going up here, and schools and kids and hospitals and healthcare.
10,000 homes? Oh, that must be Milton.
That is Milton. But the bottom line is this: it's about planning. So if there's one thing I want to do, it's ensuring that we have that solid foundation. I'm a commuter. I take the train into Toronto almost every day, and people have talked to me on the GO train, and on the side of the road and in the shopping malls and in the grocery stores. They want to see us do something about that.
So there's been two avenues into the infrastructure thing. You've got 130 billion over 10 years on the table. You've got 120 billion over.
Actually, 160 billion now.
Pardon?
160 billion.
160
for infrastructure.
You've got 120. That adds up to 280. Is my math any good? Is that 28 billion a year? So will you two be coordinating? Because there's two avenues into this money. There's the municipalities, like Oakville has passed a resolution saying these are the things we want, and we've sent it off to both of you, and then the province itself is asking, has its own channel to Canada. And so I'm imagining that since both of you covered the same area, more or less, that there's value in you coordinating to agree on what would come down. Are you doing that? Do you? How does it work between the two levels of government?
Actually.
Yeah.
We had a meeting just before during the budget, with actually not just Indira and myself, but also the Oakville MP and MPP and Burlington as well, trying to make sure that we are coordinating these things. And as I said, working with you and making sure that we're not working in silos, because there's nothing worse than working in silos. So I know that both of us are committed to continuing the dialogue that we've already started.
Yeah, the mayor I was quoting, who likes to joke that he graduated from MP to mayor, was making this very point that it's really important for the representatives to coordinate. So I'm thrilled to hear that you're doing that.
I actually found that conversation really, really great and revealing and really effective, because it was so wonderful to have us all sitting at the table and talking about what's important to us and what's needed. And I have to say, the federal level was listening to us and taking what we had to say seriously, and it went both ways. So it was wonderful. And of course, there's Fed-Prov talks all the time, right? And
but it's too soon to say what the thing will be that will come to Oakville North-Burlington and the Halton riding from this collaboration?
It is too soon.
Yeah, I think it's too early.
But
one of the things
maybe you'll do this with us regularly.
We will,
and you'll let us know.
One of the things
Absolutely.
that both levels of government are committed to is transit, and that's something that Oakville has really invested heavily in and done I'm proud to say, an outstanding job with our transit system. But certainly the province and the federal government are going to be making further investments in transit, and I know I will be pushing for that, because residents in Oakville North-Burlington, while they benefit from the transit we have now, it can only get better. And if we really want to make transformational change and have people really leave their cars at home, as you know, we need to keep improving it. So
we're, I hadn't thought of this before you said that, but when we doubled our investment in transit a few years ago, and to create a grid-style transit system instead of the old hub and spoke thing in and out of the GO stations, it's a huge increase in spending, but it did get us a 25% increase in ridership. And your transit money, as I understand it, is based on your relative ridership. So I guess in theory, we're going to get a dividend from our investment in that we had a 25% increase in ridership, so we'll get, in theory, 25% more than we would have. I can't wait to find out what that dollar amount turns out to be, so that we can declare the dividend.
You look at what the province is doing with GO, and being able to coordinate Oakville Transit with the half-hour GO service. Right now, people continue to drive to the GO train station, and the half-hour service is fantastic in the investments that have been made, but we still have too many people driving to the station.
So, and we have, we're investing $13.5 billion in the GTHA, which essentially means we're going to increase, I think it's train service by like 6,000 trains a day. But what does that mean to Oakville? What does that mean to, Oakville North-Burlington? It means essentially that we're moving forward with the plan to do 15-minute service. From 30 to 15.
And you're going to build a new station in Oakville, so that somewhere, you haven't decided where, but Winston Churchill, Ford Drive, Maple Grove, Dorval, I don't know, but one of these places is going to become a new GO station. And curiously, one of the reasons is to be able to allow more people to park. But there is another issue, which is you just can't move any more people through the Oakville station, which is the busiest station outside of Union Station. And I've always been proud of the fact that the very first GO train ran from Oakville to Union Station in 1967.
But we're working in partnership in other levels too, right? We're increasing the bus service too, so that Dundas corridor, Toronto, Mississauga, Oakville, Burlington, that's going to be shored up so we have more frequent service. So trying to do whatever we can to make it easier for people.
So I'll give you a big, like Christmas wish hint. The BRT, the Trafalgar Road BRT, which is right now in the someday after the first phase, after the second phase, and we don't know when, but in the big move plan of the province, the Trafalgar BRT is out there after everything else. We've done the EA, we've done the TPAP. It is actually shovel ready. So if you find yourself with a municipality that's difficult to work with, and they aren't ready, because sometimes that does happen. Not every municipality is as buttoned down and business-like as Oakville. I think we'd be willing to do our part early.
Well, we'll put that down on our list then, since you're in so early with the request.
Well, I mean, I think it's a sweet thing that we're ready. It certainly shows that we're eager, and you know, it's got to be spent somewhere. So our philosophy is we may as well be ready.
And you know what? If we're really going to make a difference in climate change, people have to change their behaviors. You know how much I advocated for cycling when I was on council. I'm continuing to ask that walking and cycling programs be included in our infrastructure spend.
I hope you'll support electric cars too.
Well, we actually do have. I know the province has it, and we in our budget have included more for electric cars, which I know you drive a hybrid. But there was a lot of really good stuff in that budget. One of the things I want to mention was the Canada Child Benefit we're bringing in. And in my riding, there are a lot of young families who will benefit from the money that we're going to be putting into their hands right away with the Canada Child Benefit. It's something that's significant for Canadian families, and in particular with so many that live in Oakville North-Burlington.
Well, I'm very glad that you mentioned that. I'm very proud of that. It actually is in the same category in my mind as the free tuition approach that the province has unveiled in its budget, and the thing that I think is praiseworthy there is the concept that we shouldn't be leaving people behind.
Absolutely.
And both of these steps help make sure that while we're building Ontario and Canada up, we're also raising up everybody, not just a few.
Honestly, Rob, I mean, when it comes to education, I think that's a gift that we can give our children that keeps on giving, right? And it's something that you can never take away from a child. So accessibility to education, I think, is a cornerstone of the society we live in, and certainly the values that I think we all share. And I think making sure that children who are coming from needy, low-income families, you know, $50,000 as a household income or less, are able to access free tuition is, in my opinion, one of the most important things that I think our government will ever do. And I am proud to actually be sitting at the table as we
You did another thing that was, I think, revolutionary, frankly. My mother trained to be a teacher, and I'm the oldest of 5 kids, and we grew up in poverty, I'm not afraid to say. And my mother taught us that education was the road up. And you changed Ontario's high school graduation rate from a very unimpressive level to something like 87 or 88%.
It was 60-something, I believe, 64% or something, and now it's around 84%, 87%. It's unbelievable. It's amazing.
My hat's off to you on that. My mother would be proud of that.
And I think the further piece that we're doing when it comes to education, we're also making it easier for mature students, for students who are married, and for young people who have finished high school, let's say, for 4 years, haven't gone to university, to be able to access the funding they may need and go back to school. So this is really important when you're dealing, for example, with single parents, people who are trying to put the food on the table and take care of their kids at the same time, but want to be able to grow as individuals and want to really be able to go further in terms of their own development. And so the province is making it easier for them to get an education, a post-secondary education. I think that's huge.
Can I ask you guys, I mean, I don't think of either one of you as a professional politician. You both had very praiseworthy careers before you got into politics. I actually think that's an important thing. Do you think that you do enough to tell about your success stories and to make sure that people know what you're going to do and how they're going to benefit?
If I can just say, when you brought up the challenges that we face, I was going to say that I thought that was probably one of the things I've discovered is the biggest challenge about governments. There's a lot of great stuff happening at all levels, you know, whether it's the municipalities, whether it's the federal level, or whether it's the provincial level. But one of the biggest hurdles we face on a daily basis is getting that message out and getting getting it out accurately, because sometimes there will be a misunderstanding of something that's come out, and that kind of piece rolls out with people not really understanding what we're doing. So, two things: making sure everybody knows, our budget book is this big, it's that thick, and every single page has all kinds of wonderful initiatives in it, and that's just the budget for this year. Those programs need to be communicated well to people out there. We're doing our best, but there's just a few of us, and we're trying to get it out there, and we certainly
when you open
need
the
to do a
paper
better
or
job.
you tune in the news and you see, I think, fairly shallow pick, gotcha going on, how does it make you feel? I mean, I worry that when you look to the south of the United States, they've been on this negativity spiral down for so long that they don't know how to dream big, they don't know how to aspire to better anymore. It's like, who can outcompete with the other one to drag you down lower?
Well, I think the recent federal government proved that Canadians have values of compassion and caring and want to be positive. And that whole negativity didn't resonate with Canadian voters. And so while you do see that in the media, I think when you get down to the actual residents of our riding and our country, it didn't resonate.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example of our programs for business. Business owners don't even know they exist. And I don't think we do a good job of letting them know that there is some place that they can go and access a number of services. The same with, we have Canada 150 grants that are coming out, where nonprofits and local groups can apply for funding for celebrations for Canada's 150th, and we need to get the message out that there is an opportunity to be part of that. So it is definitely a challenge. You find that municipally as well, I know. It's hard to get the positive messages out there because the negative one tends to resonate more broadly in the media.
I actually think we're maybe the best in the country at telling people what we're doing, because I'm so convinced that if you don't fill the vacuum with what is actually happening, you get kind of a negative expectation. You get this water drip torture of negative, and I think eventually it wears down the stone. I am heartened by the way what you're seeing going on in the media and the opinion classes doesn't seem to be affecting the regard that people have for the Prime Minister. And I don't know, I cannot get over guys who couldn't do a push-up calling the Prime Minister Justine. I'll never understand how anybody thinks that's an effective way to conduct public debate. But apparently some of the folks in my gender think that that's a cool thing to do. Just crazy.
Well, and as a former journalist, I have to say it was one of the key reasons why I changed what I did, because I felt at times that the expectation on me was to find that little critical thing that wasn't working in a project or a program, to find something to criticize and push people further. Sometimes I realized there were just great things out there. There's always something you can find that's not working quite the way it should.
Well, I want to thank you for being with me today. I hope that we can make this a regular thing. I think it's valuable. And my wife and daughters, if they were listening to this, and I hope they will, I think would be very charged up by the positive attitude and the constructive approach that you guys bring. And we're looking forward to great results, and we're looking forward to more news from you about what the first project will be. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to What Matters here in Oakville, and we hope to see you next time on Oakville Matters.